with Karen, and I'm out at Park Point in Minnesota. I think you can see these beautiful ice houses out here on the lake. I wanted to kind of give you a beautiful image to look at, and I want to be able to share with you about a couple of really important things. This particular live stream is called Waking Up. Waking up is something that is not beautiful. It's not painless. It's definitely, I'm going to roll up my window because people are starting to get really noisy, but just look at how beautiful the lake is, okay? Tune in with me here for just a moment. I began waking up around 1965 and 1966, and I believe one of the real primary reasons for it was because my grandmother herself was shaken awake by losing her firstborn son of 4 children. She was so interested in learning if it was possible to be able to have a connection. You can imagine if you're a mom, if you plan on being a mom one day, or a father, you're a grandparent, our loved ones mean everything to us, right? Our lives mean so much to us. Bless up, Val. Good to see you. I'm sitting here over at Park Point with the pack in the car. I began to wake up because she said to me, Karen, I was 4 and 5 years old, and I had had experimentation done to me through some very awful people. Some people know that, and they refer to that as like an MK Ultra. This was going on in the Bay Area where I lived, and it caused a lot of initial dissociative disorder type behaviors in people. Many people don't even remember it happening. And a scant amount of people actually overcame significant trauma, drugging, sexual, vaginal, anal abuses until they bled. Our hair was cut off, and we went through the equivalent of a lot of torture. When you survive something that is so intense, when you survive it, and then you come and you're wide open, you are open to being the sensory organs sing, right? That you truly are. You are able to have deeper level experiences. When you wake up, it means that you take the time to remove chemicals from your body that cause your glands and your organs to not work as they are geared to work. They called them glands and organs because they're expressing and they're making music, and they're able to allow you on an innate level, meaning from birth or inside of you, to be able to help you to connect to every single thing, being, sentient life, every aspect of Earth in a way that 99% of people have never, ever experienced. So in order to keep you burnt out through your HPA axis, your hypothalamic adrenal axis, thank you guys, we're reconnecting. Many of us, as Val has just stated here, were implanted. Many of us, as in the case of myself at 12 years old, had 23 deep level amalgam fillings. Many of you are just beginning to realize and understand what mercury does to the body. Mercury is also known as the messenger. It was the messenger of the gods. Mercury is one of the 5 metallic substances that changes form, just like you do. Okay? Well, everything changes form, so let me just state that. But it's one of 5 heavy elements in the periodic table that has a very specific and specialized quality. And the reason is because it's not from, okay? So when I was coming up, my grandmother was friends with Zechariah Sitchin and Dr. Ian Stevenson. Zecharia Sitchin took many, many years to decipher Sumerian tablets that were left here for us, that were discovered. And they talked about other types of individuals, people, beings that used to live here that many people would call the Anunnaki. So she knew about this in the early 60s. She read up everything she could possibly find about partnership societies during the time when people that had partnership societies were living in Sumer, in Mesopotamia, in the Fertile Crescent. Now, waking up with her after the abuse that I went through, having my hair cut off that was all from birth until I was 5. My mother was going to leave my hair growing. We overstood what the hair's connection was, okay? Anyone knows, if you know the old ways, that when a woman in particular cuts off her hair and cuts it really short, she's grieving, mourning, or she needs an absolute fresh start, okay? You're disconnecting from that energy and you are reestablishing, and you're setting out in the process of rebuilding yourself. From the time I was a little girl, I was exceptionally observing of what was going on. I used to ask my mother, "What are those up in the sky?" She said, "Those are sky riders. They ride up in the sky." And I searched further. My grandmother was much more awake than my mother. My father, not so much, but his mother was pretty darn awake, Olive. And she lived in Livermore, California, and was married to the man that I believe abused me and brought me into a setting where people were experimenting on some of their own and others. So today, I see individuals walking around with a jacket like I just saw at Whole Foods with MK symbolisms on it. It's a popular brand, you may know. I see people with down jackets, and if you got a hand-me-down down jacket, well, so be it, right? But going out and putting out so much money knowing that other forms of life are being abused, it bewilders me. It makes me wonder. Except that my grandmother mentioned, excuse me, call coming in, I'll just let that go. My grandmother mentioned so long ago that there were percentages, that people had percentages, meaning that just like the Bible discusses about the fallen angels or the Nephilim, they're exceptionally tall, they have exceptionally big hands, they were exceptionally intuitively intelligent, they possessed a myriad of intelligences, not just we'll test your IQ and tell you your number. And as I grew and grew, and I determined in myself, Grandma was right. She listened to Dr. Ian Stevenson when he talked about near-death experiences, when he qualified that young children were remembering previous lifetimes. Today, I interpret that as the fact that the child is able to sense the field, okay? Able to sense the field. Now, as we walk around, we love to keep, when we see our people, we see our family, our coworkers, people we go to school with, we go to the doctor's office. I just came out of the hospital from helping a close loved one in the hospital who had an overdose. And it's very interesting because a young resident came in, resident meaning a young doctor in training before he's in practice, unsupervised, probably in his mid-30s, I'm going to guess, or maybe even late 20s. And I said, the allopathic system has launched the opioids for the people to become addicted to them. And at the same time, when the people come in and they fear the dope sickness and they fear being high and dry without these drugs, and now China is sending all the analogs, what will you do for them? You have the power of the pen to be able to use your prescription pad, but your medications has caused the majority of the problems that we suffer from today. Your medications are not medicine, they are drugs, okay? Everything from the way we speak, our word sound, the things that we eat, the things that we choose to drink, the food chemicals, the chemicals in the drinks, the colorants, the medications, the things that we say, the way we self-sabotage, the way that we procrastinate, the way that we know somehow in the back of our mind or maybe in our frontal cortex, things don't look or smell or feel right. We end up just longing for safety and love. We're longing to feel stable and secure in a world that says if you don't keep selling your hours, you won't be able to buy food. If you don't have something saleable about you. So I want to even bring your attention to the word charge. We have to charge each other, and that is why you are living on a plane, a geometric plane. And I discovered this when I was a young girl, and I looked up, see the sun up there? You can see, right? I realized that just like I'd had a sea monkey kit and I'd been exposed to aquariums where you'd put the light on them, or reptiles in a cage where you'd put the grow light on the reptiles, I realized something extremely important. That's a grow light. That's what that is right there. The sun and the moon are actually positioned in such a way as to keep you electrostatic. You're basically surviving in an electromagnetic soup. It's a field. A lot of folks like Lynn McTaggart, Greg Braden, I could keep going. The folks at Gaia, David Wilcox, myself for 30-something years, my grandmother long before me, and many, 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 many ancestors long before her have all known that we have abilities in this field which are now being eroded with the erection of these cell phone towers and 5G because they are destroying your glands. They are destroying the seeds within you. The food chemicals have changed people's orientation. So, for example, waking up means knowing. If you came in, meaning you were birthed, and you came out feet first, you became left-handed predominantly. You became multiple chemical sensitive. You became to have an autoimmune disorder. You became drug addicted. You need to realize that the types of radioactive experimentation, also known as radioactive iodine, I-131 iodine, was being released in Nevada from 1942 into 1992, with the last major explosion in 1970 at Bainbury. This is a snippet of what's in my book, Detox and Heal Your Thyroid. Val, you have a copy of that, and many other people do too, because anytime you speak about the truth with people, they start to feel as if it's some kind of a conspiracy. When you open and you wake up, waking up means you're no longer with pearly bleached teeth and battering your eyelashes. You're not the most pretty girl on the block, and you're not the most handsome dude on the street. You're someone who's actually weathered the test of time. You're someone who's painfully kept your eyelids open when you thought you couldn't possibly do it again. You're someone who grabbed a lottery ticket and rubbed it between your fingers, hoping through the medical industry, the pharmaceutical industry, the insurance industry. You've seen that paying for your shelter is ridiculous in the escalating, ever upward moving cost of living that will never stop without a collective consciousness and group mind. You would see it in how people talk. As I left the hospital with my loved one, it was, we want to get you to our clinic on Monday because we want to get you tied in with us. We want to battle bone cancer. We want you to fight that disease. We want you to conquer diabetes. No, they don't. They never have. Now, there are certainly good individuals in the medical industry, as I kind of hop around on the subjects here. Absolutely there are. There are wonderful people that decide to become a Western allopathic medical doctor who were absolutely asleep. They had to have been when they decided to go to an American Medical Association medical school. They didn't know. They weren't awake yet. They had to be. The same is true for going to a naturopathic, integrative, functional medicine practice or any of the others. I've not yet met a doctor, an endocrinologist who's a hormonal specialist, nor an emergency room doctor, besides one woman in Duluth, that I would actually say carried competence, confidence, and intelligence enough to see through the system. You cannot have the power, like the Sackler family, to unleash all of these opiates onto people, knowing before you prescribe them that their power to addict was what it was. So when our innocent children, husbands, wives, grandparents, clients, coworkers, students at school, professors go in and have a surgery, and they are given an opiate, an OxyContin, a Vicodin, anything, there's a number of them. And they've got what the majority of people in the world have today, which is pandemic and epidemic, which is anxiety and depression, unrelenting fear and grief and scarcity mentality. Then you damn straight know that you hijacked the midbrain called the amygdala, and you know damn good and well that you're going to hijack the adrenals, and that person will, on a very operant conditioning way, they will take themselves down, which opens up another opportunity of organ harvesting, also known as organ donation. However, we are not waking up fast enough, and that is because of all of this putting people to sleep. Radiation, Val, does come from X-rays. It comes from the CT scans. It comes destabilizing your living waters with the MRI scans, which actually completely perturb and disturb your inner living waters. And they take essential essence from you, no different than how Kim had posted about the movie The Dark Crystal that was out. Right. And so all of this radiation, including manipulating how we are able to process and what we can absorb from the sun by way of vis-a-vis the chemtrails. So it is painful to wake up. It's not beautiful to wake up. It means that you start noticing every word that you drop, every word that you speak, how you speak with people and not to them, how you speak about going to work, how you speak about having a boss. Do you have a boss? Or do you have people that you work with because you need to go fetch money? You need to go fetch money in a system that requires you to fetch money, a system that requires you to go get a physical examination and pumps you full of drugs, cuts out body parts because you and your children and your children's children are all going to play the game operation. You're going to play take out the superfluous or unneeded body part. And even now, the game has even been revamped. We'll give you a new shoulder replacement. We'll give you knee replacement. We'll give you hip replacement. Now, I know some of you are going to maybe write down below and you're going to say, today, another day, next year, 5 years from now, hey, that doesn't seem right, Karen. Some people actually need that. Well, absolutely, some people actually do. Except that we would have prevented those people from actually needing a replacement but for the rare occasion of true trauma and accident where the person actually had a body part that was disfigured or destroyed, crushed or annihilated somehow. We are replacing body parts at the same speed that we're taking them out and selling them. So if a young adult comes in and they've overdosed and you grab their kidneys, their liver, their heart and everything else, and they're 28 years old, and you've got it sold to 5 or 6 different people, those different body parts. Not only is the opiate industry, for those who are not awake, making money through the penal system, the criminal system, the courts, the judges, the prosecutors, the public defenders, the people that work, it is constantly funding itself, and it's taught you to go get a degree. Look at the word sound here. Go get a degree, okay? There are degrees in masonry, are there not? Go get your degree so you can go get your 1 or 2 or 3 degrees, which will never be 33, right? There's a reason that all of these numbers have a very specific vibration to them. Now, you can break it down really simply because this is something I've lived with my entire life, is waking up and waking up a little more and waking up a little more, and it hurts like hell. It stings. It's painful. It will make you houseless, or what people call homeless, for a while. I've been there too. I'll go through, you will go through, we will go through being powerful, being powerless, being happy and relaxed and content and beautiful, and then being absolutely distraught and full of grief and beside ourselves and panicked. And what the hell is going on? Why is California voting in vaccines as mandatory? Why do people think I'm kind of ridiculous? Because I'm exactly, Val, subliminal music, and the cancer cures are suppressed. We would never have cancer. I want you to take the word sound of cancer and syllableize it. Can-cer. Now spell it out. C-A-N, separate word, space, S-I-R. It is a disease of patriarchy. It is a disease of male domination. We love males. We really do. We all love males. The problem is that when you have to ask to be able to go to another part of the world and get a passport, you have to ask to be able to get a visa. You have to go and ask to be able to get on an airline. You have to do these things because now you genuinely believe that your safety is at risk from your own brothers and sisters. Your own brothers and sisters are not eating in parts of the world. And you have to wonder, as you or I just went shopping at Whole Foods and spent $40. I would rather every one of us pitch in and the entire world eats, that the babies, the children, the young adults, the elders, the ancients, those that are over 80, those that are well over, that need to be cared for. In my case, I've worked for 40 years. I've taken care of being a solo parent. I went home every single day and I studied for hours. I studied since 1965 with my grandmother. I'm wide awake, but I'm living in a world that sounds utterly insane. And I'm going to say utterly with 2 Ds because they're all nursing off of a cow. So last night I was at the laundromat. My washer's been broken. And I rather enjoyed sitting there at the end of my day with all of my errands, with my son with me. And I put my load in the big $7 washing machine. Thankful to have it. And it was about 0 degrees or so last night in northeast Minnesota. And a woman came in with 2 children that were running all over the place. And it was really delightful to have the young ones there. I really appreciated them. And I asked her before I left, I said, what do you think would be your biggest concern when it comes to health issues with your young children? She goes, well, I run a daycare too, plus I have 4 children. I have a set of twins, I have 2 other children, and I am done. I said, well, bless you. That is such a wonderful thing that you have 4 children. You're able to stay home and run the daycare. That is super awesome. I said, what is your concern? I'd like to know, because I'd like to hear how, the young women and the mothers are feeling. And she said, well, I don't know. Probably the biggest thing would be the colds, the flus, and the pink eye. And her little daughter chimed in. She was probably about 4, and she said, yeah, I just got over getting pink eye. I said, Mom, do you realize why the children have the colds, the flus, and the pink eye? I really want to say this in the nicest way possible because people can get very, very defensive, okay? Empathic is right, Val. Thank you. People can get very, very defensive. Her daughter was running around with a small plastic container of cow milk, or what I call cow pus, with a label on it that had colorful M&M people, like the M&M's candy, in red and blue and green, right, with the food colors. Oil of oregano is awesome. So her little daughter was running around with this chocolate milk. How many of us have, been guilty of that in the past as children ourselves? And I said to her, Dairy is something that's extremely harmful. I said, I really encourage you to look it up. And you've got to say this in the absolute nicest way possible. I said, dairy is really, really toxic. It's been pumped full of copper, antibiotics, and growth acceleration hormone. We're not meant to nurse from a cow. We would do far better, as I have in my Whole Foods bag here. I just got a very small bag of raw macadamia nuts, a very small bag of raw Italian almonds, a very small bag of, I'm saying small because my bill was $40. That's what I had budgeted to spend. A small bag of raw Brazil nuts. I'm going to get lots of selenium that's bioavailable and food-based by making my own Brazil nut milk with plain filtered water and a blender, just like you're going to be able to do, Val, when you get yourself set up in your new place. I'll be able to make a really healthy brain tonic with my raw macadamia nut milk. And I will either be able to drink those plain, ideally, and raw. I'll be able to put them in the blender and make smoothies out of them. And I'll be able to keep my glands and my organs, my immune system, my lymphatic system, my energy, despite the fact that in the last 4 nights, I've gotten about 7 hours of sleep total. When you are a medicine woman and you're helping family and you're helping clients, I need to have my energy. You need to have your energy. The reason that people are going for the opiates is because the fear is too much to live in a state where you're partially awake, but you're still making poor food choices. You're still eating wheat. You're still consuming dairy. You're still consuming white sugar and white sodium chloride salt. You're still keeping poor habits and staying up too late. And if you're in crisis, you're helping a loved one, we have to push it sometimes. But when we're not in that situation, you want to be in laying down by 10 o'clock. I almost said in bed. But if you go to my other videos on my YouTube channel, you'll see one that says, I haven't slept on a bed most of my adult life. I've slept on a basic cotton batted futon that was organic back in Santa Cruz, and I slept on the floor. With the exception of a few years, I slept on the bed. Nope, fire sees somebody. It's okay, buddy. So what I want to say is that, and I am saying with you right now, is that waking up is incredibly important. You know what I have right now, Val? Let me show you. I got a coconut milk chai over at Whole Foods. They have a chai on special right now for $3 with a coconut milk creamer, and it's got some almond in there, so it's called a nutty chai, and it's really delicious. So, right, unless we're in an absolute crisis or we absolutely have to drive, coffee is pure acid. Man, it tastes so good. We love it. Now, listen for a moment before we wrap it up here, and I'll take any questions that you have. And I'm going to be doing a regular segment once a week where you can ask me questions, and I'll give people that we seem like we're a good fit that would possibly consider doing coaching. I'll give you a free individual private one-on-one for 15 minutes through FaceTime or Facebook video, whichever is. FaceTime usually works really well. You do it through the computer or your phone. Now, everywhere I go, let's say that I'm hungry and I'm in a pinch. If you're living in a smaller city, there really almost isn't anything. In Cloquet, for example, there's a Casino Pizza, complete junk. There's a Sammy's Pizza, there's a Mexican restaurant, which is absolutely nothing like Mexican food back in California and Mexico, because I can't even bring myself to go there. And it's wheat, cheese, and meat. Wheat, cheese, and meat everywhere you go. You go to Subway, it's nasty wheat, cheese, and meat. Yes, you can make a vegetable sandwich if you're in a real pinch. And the only option you really have is to get their big bowl salad and put lots of veggies on it. Keep the dressings off of it, right? Put a little bit of the jalapenos on there so you can give it a little bit of a seasoning and a spike. Put a little bit of salt and pepper if they're not using just sodium chloride. But it might be the same thing where you live, that you might be in a pinch, you might be exhausted, you might be looking for something to eat, and you've got Arby's, you've got the Clown, McDonald's, you've got Little Caesars, You've got convenience stores that have nothing but GMO chips and GMO donuts, GMO and nasty hot dogs and brats and all these different things up here. You've got a counter full of nothing but fried foods inside of the Super America that's now known as Speedy Mart. They're Champs Chickens, rather. So everywhere that you go, there is all of these selections for you to keep you trapped in a low mental vibration. Keeping you trapped in a low mental vibration is going to cause your mental decay. It was only 45 years ago that they came out with an Alzheimer's diagnosis, and that's exactly the same time that the wheat was changed. That's exactly the same time, because I remember it. I'll be 58 this year. I remember being a young girl and looking and hearing my mother and the other women who all stayed home with their children in San Jose, California, saying, "Oh my gosh, Joe's got an ulcer." And everyone was like, "What's an ulcer?" That's when the wheat was introduced. When my paternal grandmother started getting rabid anxiety, it blossomed things for the mental health, the behavioral health, and the psychiatric industries that are funneling people and causing them to believe that they've just had a stroke of pure luck, and they've got bipolar, schizophrenia, schizophrenic affective disorder, borderline personality, self-mutilation, self-obstruction, paranoia. They used to call multiple personality disordered, right? Now it's a lot easier for an industry that funnels people to be able to come up with a myriad of different disorders. And the reason is the same thing for the MRI. They want you to be destabilized, because then you are a perpetual dependent. Being a dependent, being asleep, being a consumer is the three prongs of the system: being asleep, being dependent, and being a consumer. Now, I could go on and on and on, a whole weekend workshop about your communication, which your words sound, the words that you choose, the boss, talking to people, right? We want to get you tied in with our office. We want you to conquer your disease. You're medicine women like myself. So as I spoke with this doctor just now at St. Mary's Essentia today at about 2:30, 3 o'clock Central Time, and he started saying, "Well, I'll look into that." I said, "Did you realize that opiates encompasses, if you don't know, go to my page on Facebook. It's called The Opioid Addicted. The Opioid Addicted on Facebook. It's a newer page. There's a lot of good information on there. If you're going to let these things loose on people, then you need to be able to offer them a solution. Don't just take our young adults and all of our people that are overdosing and millions of families being heartbroken and run ragged and run through the dirt and say, I don't know, I guess you're going to have to get into treatment. You call the treatment centers, I don't know, I think we'll have an opening in 2 weeks. Maybe we'll have an opening in a week. It might be 3 weeks. I don't know. Well, you're holding on to life day by day as patiently baring your teeth, sleep deprived, your home is being wrecked, your nerves are frayed, you're afraid on a daily basis that you're going to lose your loved one. And I'm about to come unleashed on these people when I talk with these doctors, because I said, let me educate you. You're still wet behind the ears. You're about 30 years old. You're a resident in the American Medical Association. And the woman and the two women that eventually came into the emergency room today, in room number 2 at Essentia at about 2:30, their look with their eyes told me everything I needed to know. With respect, I said to him, I am an elder. I am an original medicine woman. I look for the root cause, and the opioids being unleashed on people is an unnatural, planned occurrence with all of the folks that could possibly retort what I'm saying right now and say, but we needed pain medication. You bet you did, but you also needed someone to offer you real medicine. These mega hospitals that are about to be built even in Duluth and all over the country are going to become something other than you might ever imagine. They are not healing people. They are checking, scanning, and treating people. Okay? And these folks are having to follow the protocol that they've been trained to follow, the prescription pad, the cutting it out like the operation game, and the killing it out with chemotherapy and radiation, and they're not doing a damn thing 90% of the time to help you get any better. Last night, I was in Walmart. I was grabbing a couple of things at Walmart I needed to get in Cloquet. A woman and her daughter, the daughter was 62, mom must have been in her 80s. And as I was passing by in my cart, I had cucumbers and zucchini, some tomatoes, and all different kinds of things that are very healthful for the body. And I looked over at this beautiful 80-some-year-old woman with her daughter. Both of them smiled, and I smiled back, and I looked at her for a moment. And when I looked towards her, to honor her, to look at her energy, I could see nervous system, you're electrical magnetic, and you're not firing on all cylinders. So she told me, I'm taking 8 medications. I looked in her cart. I saw a Sara Lee cake with tons of whipped cream and crap cherry pie filling guck on the top of the thing. I saw wheat rolls, round wheat rolls in there, the brown ones. I saw frozen Oreo things that she was cookie bites or something she was going to put in the freezer. And in the very back of her full cart, the bottom of the cart, the full-size shopping cart was full, was a small bag of tangerines. And as I stood there, I said, can I help? I would love to help. She said, yes, please. I said, I want you just to look at your cart for a moment. She said, okay. She said, oh, and we're side by side with our carts, right? She said, well, my cart doesn't look like your cart. I said, no, it doesn't. And it certainly isn't a judgment either. I said, your cart, what you have in your cart is killing you. What you have in your cart, you may not know, is food chemicals. Those food chemicals are causing your problem. She said, well, yeah, I've got Parkinson's. You didn't even have to tell me that. As your mouth was open because you can't get enough air through your nose, I saw your tongue bobbing back and forth. Now, this wasn't exaggerated. This was actually kind of subtle. Her daughter came closer holding an English cucumber in her hands. A wrapped English cucumber here in Walmart in front of the produce. We're side by side on the 1st of September yesterday. And I said, look what's in your mom's cart. She goes, I know. I'm holding this cucumber. I said, those cucumbers are awesome. You need those cucumbers. They're amazing. She said, well, I said, what's in your cart that's going to give you life force energy? What's in your cart that you have that you can take home that's going to make you feel good and give you energy? Because if you don't have energy, you start to have neurological issues. If you don't have energy, you start to have autoimmune issues. If you don't have energy, you start to have what? You've already had a thyroid issue. If you don't have energy, you might possibly start self-medicating yourself, and you might fall for the opioid epidemic, right? The opiate crisis, you might be in that. You might be one of the many women my age that are snorting heroin or Adderall in the morning before you go to your job at the grocery store. Because what? Because you can't manage your own anxiety. Because you don't want to take the Xanax or something else that the doctor's going to give you, the Celexa, come on, man. How many medications are we going to have before we figure out these are not medicine? Medications are drugs. Medicine is finding the root. Medicine is honoring you and listening to why and how you got there in the first place. Why were you scared between the ages of 0 and 4? Who scared you? What happened to you? That's not hours and hours and hours on a psychotherapy couch. That is me listening to your mind-body expression, the words that you use, the way that you hold your body when we look through the screen or we're in person, the things that you tell me. I was on the FaceTime with a client just 3 weeks ago when he said on our 4th session, I don't know if I'm going to get any better. I feel lobotomized. My brain doesn't feel right. I don't feel good. I said, so you feel pretty vacuous? He said, yes, I do. And I'm really almost doubtful now that I'm going to be able to get myself back because you see, I now know something. The doctors would have killed me if I would have let them keep me on SSRIs any longer. If you don't know what an SSRI is, it's a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, which means that it starts to mess with the chemistry and the chemicals in your brain, your neurotransmitters to be specific. Serotonin, I'm sure you've all heard of it. You probably know a great deal about it. With no disrespect to anyone. Everyone's got different drives and ambitions about what they want to learn about, okay? Now, if you blast people, like Val just said, with chemtrails, you are typically being blasted with lithium. And lithium is commonly used through the psychology, the psychiatric, and the medical industry to keep people that are high copper calm. And I know that because I just recently worked with a young woman who's maybe close to 30 years old who was put on it for 12 years. And when we did a hair test, which is what I do through my website at naturallywithkaren.com, it's called an HTMA Profile 2. It's $125 plus $7.50 for shipping. We take about a teaspoon of your hair. If you don't have hair on your scalp, we take pubic hair. If you don't have pubic hair, we take finger or toenail clippings. I send it into the lab in a sealed envelope. I get an 8-page report back. It tells me all your minerals, all your heavy metals, all your toxic elements. Listen, you're never going to get that when you go to a Western allopathic doctor. You might not likely even get that at a naturopathic. They're all doing the same thing. They sound a little different, okay? With the exception of a very small handful. We do not need to be credentialed. We need to be competent. Our people would know who was competent and who was not. So if this man in our 4th session knew that there was a mind-body piece, a dietary food piece, a detoxification piece, okay, a lifestyle piece, products that he uses that he might not even be aware of, right? Things he can do to gradually regenerate himself. This is what coaching is all about. Your typical health coach, however, is being taught not to cross the lines, only to do certain very, very basic things with you, not to help you get off medications, not to advise you about vaccinations and the chemicals in them, not to do anything but stay within the well-prescribed lines of a little bit of hand-holding and fluff and stuff and sending you to the, quote, expert, the almighty authority, the doctor. Now, there's great doctors. That's where I'm going to go if I have a trauma. But I carry the responsibility and the self-worth and the want, moreover, to take care of myself. Does that make sense? Send me a message if that makes sense to you. Does it make sense to you? Right. Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga, okay? Magnets for healing work for a lot of folks if you have polarity issues. Okay. Massage therapy works for everyone. I've had clients come in and say, no, I didn't feel so good after I got a massage. I got a massage from someone else and I don't even want to try you, Karen, because I haven't had a really good experience with massage. I didn't feel good. I say, well, of course you didn't. Now I'm going to break down something here really called integrated medicine or integrative functional medicine. Val, are the same things. Okay. And what they are is a way to integrate the allopathic system along with what they consider to be a holistic system. And they're still not doing much more than an allopathic doctor. I've gone too far to be able to absorb and entertain some of these things because I can see that we're wasting time. We're wasting precious time needing to have Dr. Gook and Dr. Junk and Dr. Doo-Doo. Because they say they are a doctor doesn't mean they're ever going to heal you, okay? I'm not bringing this forward from a place of arrogance or not being a humble person. I'm bringing this forth from sheer experience, Okay. I learned from many doctors, but I learned before that from my grandmother. I learned as well from books. I learned as well from 16 years I celebrated yesterday being licensed and insured, working with real people, thousands of hours a year in Northeast Minnesota. Many of those people I worked with for no charge at all because they didn't have the money. Right now, I'm very preoccupied for the last year with a family member, and around that, I see about 10 or 12 clients a week, which floats my boat, and that's how I stay alive and buy these groceries I just got for $40 and put gas in my car and keep my loved one alive and keep my pack of 3 dogs alive, one of which is a wolf dog, because I have to eat too. So if we are charging each other, we are stealing energy from each other. We are stealing energy constantly with control drama. So I'm going to go back to the client. Now, in our 4th session, because I didn't complete that thought, as we look at this really beautiful sunset here. My goodness, it's gorgeous. During our 4th session, I heard inside of my ears, ask him what happened at age 2. I asked him what happened at age 2, and he said, after reporting on his wellness form, if you go to my website at naturallywithkaren.com, naturallywithkaren.com, the links will be posted once I get home and complete the links on the YouTube video here. There's a tab that says consultations. You click on it. Under consultations, there's a tab that says wellness form. You click on that. You're able to enter all your information and submit it to me. That means that you're ready to get started to do coaching with me. And I will link up with you, or connect with you rather. I shouldn't say link because I don't want to be part of a chain. That's word sound again, right? I will connect with you and find a time that works for you. And we'll get together through FaceTime if you're in a different part of the world than I am. We have that ability today. I work with people all over the world. So he had told me about feeling lobotomized. I had suggested, is it feeling, you feel vacuous? He said, yes. He said, I have electrical surges and sparks and I don't feel good. I've got weird pain shooting up in me. The doctors put me on these 2 medications. I don't want to be on them. One of them is anti-seizure. It's anti-paranoia. It's different medications. My goal is what? I need to hear him. I need to listen. I need to write down in a notebook specifically devoted to him. I need to underline the word sound, mind, body, medicine pieces that I'm going to return to at a later time in our sessions. I need to really be observing him through the FaceTime video screen that we're working together, or in person in my professional space of 16 years here in Minnesota, and years before that in California, licensed, insured, working with people, thousands of hours a year. What I heard was, ask him what happened when he was 2 years old. What he came back with is he said, you know what, Karen? And his tears welled up in his eyes. This is a man in his mid-30s. He said, you know what? When I was 2 years old, there was a major electrical storm. And that major electrical storm scared my family so much, it blew out circuits and it blew out many of the lights in our house, and we all had to leave our home, and it was absolutely terrifying. I said, Dan, this is a big piece. Dania, Sam, George, Harry, Susan, whomever I am working with, I need to sense the mind-body piece, because your mind is generating, charging electrical energy. You are not just a bag of chemicals, brain chemistry that can just be manipulated by a medication. You don't just throw a Band-Aid on someone who's suffering with a complex issue involving their diet, their minerals, which are minerals are the same thing as trace elements, mind, body, emotional trauma, needing to feel safe. I need to listen, I need to gather, I need to power them up and stabilize them, then detoxify out the problem through listening to their story. Many of my clients never had anyone who genuinely listened and respected them. Okay, waking up, you get the sense. It looks like we got one person left. I'm going to go ahead and go because I think Fire sees somebody. He's going to start barking. Come on, Fire. There's a lot of people out here that are ice fishing, and they're closing it down as we get to sunset. Right. And so everyone has a selenium deficiency, and that's because everyone is mercury exposed. Pardon Faya in the background here. Everyone is mercury exposed. See, I see your comments for a split second, Val, and then they go off the screen. So that's why sometimes I don't see all of them, but I will address them and I appreciate them. So the reason I make the Brazil nut milk is to get more selenium in my body. More selenium in my body is going to help me to purge out more of the mercury toxicity in my brain. If you, your mother, your grandmother, your father had those mercury silver amalgams, you've got excess. Oh, love you too, Val. And you need to understand, I overstand that no one is ignoring you, that I've really had my hands full in the last year and a half on a daily basis. So sometimes I have to go, oh, I gotta go. And I've got to keep myself going here. And then there's other times I go to work and that's my, but things have been a little bit catawampus. So I want to show you, isn't that really beautiful? I can't really see. Let's see if I can point this out for a moment because you guys really got to see this. Before I wrap this up, watch here for a second, okay? Oh, you just can't see it on the screen like I can see it here. It's absolutely gorgeous. So you're looking at Lake Superior, Val, and whomever watches this in the future, because it'll be posted there forever, I'm sure. Waking up is not easy. It means that we're not absolutely Barbie material and the most handsome Barbie and Ken. It means that we don't have perfect teeth, and it means that we don't bleach our teeth, and it means that we don't dye our hair. It means that we go gray when we go gray. It means that we try to eat from the earth, and we try to eat seeded fruits and vegetables, and we become aware of the fact that the wheat is not what it was at one time. It's not, okay? It means, oh my gosh, Val, you swallowed 20 mercury teeth. Oh, past lives, they do matter. They matter in a different way. I see them now as cellular memory in the field. Instead of one child reincarnated, as my grandmother believed, and I respect her, I send her love, she's with the ancestors, rest in power. I see now that we have the ability because I have consistently been able to bring up names, medical intuition, and everything else in a very non-hokey, non-psychic, And you can see, folks, you can see that 99% of the folks that are out there doing this kind of thing are straight phonies. They know that people are out there and they've got weakness, they're missing people, they've lost folks, So please be careful what you do and who you see. Make sure that you get testimonials, read their testimonials. I've got testimonials on my website. I have a whole lot more, but instead of loaded up with 500, I've got some good ones on there that cover kidney disease and lupus and sensing an ancestor and coming in with the information that she needed that was candid. Private. I can't tell you the information, but she gave you the testimonial. Severe depression, drug addiction. I'm learning about opiates, opioids. That's why the pages are on Facebook. Waking up is not always easy, but I'm going to encourage you to keep doing it. I'm going to encourage you to get off the medications when you can. Become aware of the side effects. Become aware of how you really feel when you take them. Become aware of the fact that when you work, if you want to do this, and I know it's legalistically something I should be doing, work with your doctor. Tell them you'd like to transition off of these things, but I get it. You can't just do that unless you make a plan, and it's harder to do in the winter time to get yourself onto a plant-based diet. That's why I created, after 34 years, plant-based, no TV, no microwave, no sunscreen, none of this junk, okay? So now I'm like a bit of an outcast. I go into the medical facilities like today, and they can't respect me. They don't know what an original medicine woman is. I'm in a white vehicle, so they only know that maybe Native Americans or just certain types of people. Okay. Well, Tourette's is going to come for the reason that your electrical system is degenerating. And we talked a little bit about iodine. We talked about detoxification. We talked about taking out the wheat and the dairy. And that's really tough to do if you're relying on other people for food. And that's what keeps us either jumping up to a job or a business or working or whatever. I am thankful that this is something I invested my entire life in, tens of thousands of dollars of my money. I can't even tell you hundreds of books that I just sit there and comb through and read. I didn't go to the bars. I didn't go to the parties. I sat there and read the books. So I was the one in junior high and high school that they were calling Little Miss Smarty Pants, and it didn't feel good. I'm so sorry, Val. I totally get how that feels. I have been houseless myself, and it's really, Val is commenting on the live stream. If you're watching this later and you don't see Val's comments, I'm speaking with Val through the live stream. So waking up is not easy. It means that you need to really examine all of the areas of your life, and you need to put together a plan, because you're living under a system or a matrix that is farming you. You might not realize that. That might sound really far-fetched to you. If you haven't watched it, watch the movie The Matrix, watch the movie called Avatar, and look at what it looks like to live in a system and what it would look like hypothetically in an animated movie, somewhat, in Avatar, to be in a partnership-based, cooperating system. Not even a system, partnership way of life. You had free medicine growing on the ground without the inserts of Lyme's and rabies and polio. All of these are inserts. We wouldn't have had them. They're unnatural, just like the opiates are unnatural. If you look back probably like 100 years from now, they're going to say, oh, they had opioid disorder. There's actually a diagnosis code now for opiate abuse disorder. So if you're not paying attention and you're not awake and you're sleeping, you're not going to realize that between the MRIs and the CT scans, fire loves to protect mama. That's my 165-pound baby. These things are disrupting your living waters. The food chemicals are killing you. They're making you go crazy. The vaccines, you might be a vaxxer, you might be an anti-vaxxer, but some of the ingredients are not good. I don't know what the deal is. They're walking right next to my car right now, but smiling. All right, fire, lighten up a little bit. Come on. We're going to back up here just a little bit, and you can see they're starting to walk out onto the frozen lake. Isn't that cool? All right, so I'm going to say so long for now. I need to go somewhere where I can let the dogs out. Usually I will come if I'm up here and let them out over here, but way too many ice fishermen out there. So after I get home, I'll post some of the links. You can look forward to, if you have friends or family or coworkers or people you go to school with, go to church with, that they need to have real, honest healing, detoxification, a new way of life. They need a plant-based diet. They need to overcome infertility. They've got PCOS, they've got endometriosis, they've got uterine fibroids, they're facing a potential hysterectomy, they've got fibrocystic breast disease, they've got a neurological disorder, they're going into dementia, they've got vaccinosis. I could keep going, but you get the point. The longer you live, the bigger the diagnosis codes are going to be, and the bigger the volumes that contain the diagnosis codes are going to be. The bigger the diagnostic service manual, the DSM, that contains all the mental health, emotional, psychiatric codes are going to be, because you allow it. And you allow it by not making the choice to wake up and participate in being careful about your diet and knowing that those chemicals will take you down. All right. So I'm going to say peace, love, and blessings. You have hope. We are going to build this the same way I confronted the doctors today, peacefully, kindly, but firmly. The same way I talk with people that are the youth, the same way the woman at Walmart who said, I have Parkinson's, I've had cancer twice, I had endometriosis, I had this, I had that. And I said, sure. And I can see you and your daughter both have thick eyeglasses. I can see your daughter has extremely thin hair on the top. We are degenerating. This is not rocket science. This is easy. So be well, take good care. I send you lots of love.